What's
Well,
up, brother? How we doing, man?
I'm good. I just happened to open up my email and I saw your face, or I
There it
saw your
was, huh?
name, and figured I need to catch up with this guy.
Dude, you got the whole podcast setup going on right now.
Yeah, yeah.
You're like a
It's
real like content producer now.
yeah, yeah. Riverside kind of scrunches it, but it does a good job.
Yeah, man, you're teaching the never split the difference stuff. Chris Boss, man, he's a
Yeah.
savage.
How you been? What's been going on? I'll if
Mm,
if somebody jumps on
yeah.
about tax stuff, I'll dip. But
Yeah. We'll see, dude. I was just like throwing it out there to be like, hey, cool. People are freaking out here towards the end of the year. So I
yeah,
was like, you know what? I'm working on webinar stuff and whatever. So I was like, oh, cool. I'll just jump on live. But it's cool to kick it with you here for a minute. But yeah, man.
yeah.
Like it's what have I been up to? I've actually been like for the last couple of years, dude. I've been like living with like the people, like tribal people in the jungle, and like living in ashrams and shit, and like meditating and like
Wow,
getting like super deep into that like that whole world of like what are like the inner reaches of the mind and like what is all that about. And then I've lost like 30 pounds in the last like 3.5 months trying to like get my body back together and like putting it back up and eating greens and stuff. And it's been pretty,
that's cool.
yeah,
Good for
it's been
you,
pretty
man.
wild ride. Yeah, we
Yeah,
got we
man.
got Y here with us. We got
Yeah.
Y's looking shy, but
Why
we're
he's
just
looking
over here.
shy?
Yeah, we're
What a
just over here
nice
shooting
guy.
at Y unless you come on and say you got something, here for us you want to talk about. But I know this is so what have you been up to, man? You've been doing a lot of sales and stuff like that, or what are you doing these days?
Yeah, yeah. So a lot of different things, but we've been growing. Oh, you got R too.
We got R, man. R, you got questions for me, anything like that? Pop in, pop on your camera and on mic yourself. We're just kicking it right now, unless people are gonna
Uh,
chime in with particular things.
yeah. Well, I mean, I'll jump in, man. Like about taxes, so that these guys aren't bored with my personal life and us catching up. Um, so there's a face. All right.
What's up, brother? How we
Uh,
doing? So what do you got, Josh?
one
What's going on with your tax?
one one question that is I'm always running into is what is I hear all these things at the end of the year about like go and buy this big expensive thing and it's a tax write-off. Sometimes that's not true. Is there a way to tell, like, as a guy that runs a business, what are the things that I should do with my money right now to lower my taxes for next year, and what are the things that maybe I shouldn't do?
Yeah, dude, I think a lot of it actually depends on like how much money you're making right now. So like if this is a question that's for you, or if you're like thinking of like a hypothetical, like what do we want to set? Like how much money are we making as like top line revenue?
Type let's say 250.
Okay. So like when you're right on the cusp of that, right? There's like all of the standard things that you should be doing, right? So like a typical CPA that you run into, they're like gonna hire like around like the block or whatever. They're basically gonna file your tax returns, and they're almost always what they're gonna tell you is you can almost do nothing all beside of that, right? So there's like your base two like bottom tiers, and that's how you kind of know like I'm in the wrong bracket, right?
Mhm.
Then you'll have like your next tier CPA that's going to know, okay, here are some things you can do to start structuring your income to save money on taxes. And they'll basically tell you the same three things across the board, which is going to be home office deduction, deduct your automobiles, like using Section 179. If your automobile is like over 6,000 pounds, we can like deduct the whole thing. So I just bought like a new Ford Ranger Raptor, like the first new car I've actually bought in a while because I don't do like fancy like flashy toys and stuff much.
Mhm.
But I was like, all right, cool. I'm gonna spend $70,000 like on this truck. I'm gonna pay $2,000 for a down payment.
Mhm.
I'm gonna finance the rest of it, and then I'm gonna write off as a tax deduction, like over 70K, right?
Yeah.
So like let's say that like if I was just like Joe Blow out there, like my effective tax rates are below 5%, right? But that's because I've structured like a particular tax and investing plan to get there. But if I'm Joe Blow off the street asking, I'm making 250K a year, I'm getting taxed at 25% right now. Like, should I buy this Ranger Raptor? I'm gonna be like, hell yeah, dude. You know why? because the government's going to pay you $14,000 in tax savings, and you're only going to have to pay $2,000, and you got a new truck. So you just made 12 grand. So basically, like the government made your car payments for you for the first year, and you got a new truck to be able to ride around in, right? Not so bad, right? And then you can just sell that truck at the end of the year if you want to, and then buy a new truck, assuming the sections 179 like deductions are all still in place. And you can literally be buying like a new car every year for like a couple $1,000s. The government pays for your car payment with like tax savings, and you just re-up to a new car, and then you're balling out of control because you're the dude that always has a new car. Well, everybody else didn't know is that IRS is paying for it for you. So that's what I say to do is home office, autos, and then if you have kids, like start paying your kids money out of your business if you can. Like make them a model for the business, throw them up on the website, pay them $14,400, get them underneath like the thresholds, and then start sheltering money from that. So each kid can save you 14 grand from taxes each year. I don't know if like the kids are a lot more expensive than that. So I don't know if that's like a good like long-term investment strategy. Yeah. But I guess if you love them and stuff, that's cool. Yeah.
Just so I understand that, I'll let some other people ask a question, but just about that, we pay the kids, and that's a reduction of our taxable income, or that's a dollar for dollar.
Well, think about it's like paying any other employee, right? You're going to treat your kid like they're an employee. So now it's a deduction to your top line revenue from your business, but the kid is taxed separately from you. So when you make underneath a certain amount, like I think it's 14,400 or something around there, we'd have to talk to Pete or CPA. Then all of a sudden, like that money's non-taxed. So it's a deduction to you, and then the kid isn't taxed. Now the kid has their money, right? So like whether you buy the toy or the kid buys the toy out of their own bank account, the kid still gets the toy. It's the question is do we get to pay for it with pre-tax dollars or post-tax dollars? Which means like anytime we can pay with pre-tax dollars, we're instantly have like 20 to 30% just more money, like basically free money, just because it just didn't get taken from us from the government, right?
Yeah.
IRS makes these rules, guys. It's like if we're not using them, they tell us we're only supposed to pay every taxable dollar that like we're required to pay. That's what they tell us. That's the rules that they set out. And so it's our job to get to know the rules, use attorneys, CPAs, and be able to figure that out. Anyway, so I'll get off my soapbox right now. Josh, did you have a follow-up?
No, that's very helpful. Thank you for that. Appreciate it.
Okay. Do you have any kids yet? Do you have any of these deductions or no?
Me?
Yeah.
My kid will be 18 in March.
That's a perfect time. I'm sure they would appreciate an extra $14,000 from daddy.
Yeah. So I did give her my car.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's something. But
there you go. Attaboy. Yeah, would have been a great dad. That's awesome, man. Cool. Anybody else? Thanks, Josh, man. Anybody else got a question? Go ahead, unmute yourself and just hop in.
Yeah. Sure, Scott, like my question is regarding the kids thing as well. Like since we are on it, like do you recommend a specific app? Because I know you need to kind of monitor the hours they are kind of putting in like business technically. Like let's say if the IRS audits you, like do you have to like do it manually, or like do you recommend an app or anything like that, or like just for the future reference? I'm just starting it now, so.
Yeah, I mean, like for all this stuff, right? Like I'm not your attorney. This isn't legal advice, yada yada yada, right? So. But the deal is that IRS and the law actually doesn't care about whether things are on paper or whether they're in apps, right? What they care about is like, does it conform to a customary way in which that type of like business is like typically run, right? So what I always looked at was try to look at it and say like, okay, well, how did like a photo shoot work for like Hollywood if they were gonna have like a child actor that's gonna star in a commercial? Is that like a single contract, and we sign a single contract, we hire them and we get them in, and then boom, we got it. That's like one day that we took photos and then we used it. So do I need to track anything more than that? All I needed to do is to conform to a customary way in which business, like that kind of business, is done. Right.
Okay.
As long as like my paperwork and whatever way I want to form that, whether digitally or pen and pencil or whatever, it doesn't matter. Conforms to that, then we're good.
Okay, sounds good.
Is that cool? How are you doing with your taxes this year? What are you going to be paying in tax? Do you know?
I opened a foundation this year, so I mean, hopefully the goal is to pay less. Yeah, last year
there you go.
Almost 200, 300K easily.
Okay. Yeah. Those foundations, man, you start pairing those foundations with some of those high yield syndication investments, you're going to be like on the path to retirement much faster than everybody else. Much
That's the
faster.
goal.
That's awesome. Good for you. Good for you. Anything else, brother, pop up for you? Any of your considerations?
Hey, Scott.
Hey, brother, we got Y here with us. Hey, do you have can you come on video, brother, or no? It's okay if not.
Yeah, I'm actually in the middle of a meeting, so I don't want you to
Okay.
have the background. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
I have a question for you. It might be a little bit complicated, but I'm trying to make it easy here. So I am a W-2, and we have, my wife and I have like 4 short-term rental and long-term rental, so passive / active. My wife is planning to be a rep next year, so we use all depreciation to offset my W-2 taxes. Now, so far so good. This is pretty easy and straightforward. This is kind of what's complicating. My partner and I would try to acquire a concrete business, and this concrete business have almost 1 million of FF&E to depreciate. I'm trying to use Section 179, depreciate those, furniture, fixture, inventory, all those things. And also at the same time, it generates about 400K in profit. So 1 million depreciation assets, Section 179 and 400. So I'm a W-2 full time. Should I material participate 500 hours in this business on top of my W-2 40 hours, or should I just be an absentee owner? So what kind of strategies come here to make benefit of the profit 400K a year and use the depreciation from the business? So my wife, she's doing a good job and get me depreciation, but not a lot. I'm trying to use that business to get more money and also depreciate more. So I'm a little bit confused here. Should I be passive? Should I be active? Thank you so much.
Gotcha. And are you currently a Royal Elite client by any chance?
No.
Okay. So how much are you paying right now for like your tax support and tax guidance with all of like the business work that you're doing?
Yeah, so the business actually is going to be next year. I'm planning to acquire January, February.
Okay.
Last year I paid around 70K. This year with short-term loophole and doing oil and all those things, it came down from 70K to almost like 5K.
Okay.
But again, I don't trust oil too much, to be honest, Scott. So I'm thinking about acquiring business, and also rep will be a great fit because they always generate depreciation. So my wife will be rep next year 100%. But this business also going to generate a good income, 400 a year, but also has 1 million depreciation. What should I do here? What comes?
Yeah. So the short answer to it is this is why you actually start developing a relationship with a CPA that also specializes with like MBA and investments, right? That's why we have Pete on staff, is because Pete's a CPA, MBA, CFO. So he's really the one that's going to be best aligned with being able to not just be able to help you with this kind of question, right? Which is like exactly like what's going to give me the best tax advantage. Almost always, if you can actually justify the number of hours and materially participate, you're going to get extra tax benefits, right? So this is the same thing that's happened in real estate. It's going to happen inside of like a business where you can be like a GP or an LP and be able to use those types of. Sorry, 1 second. I'm going to go ahead and mute this guy. If we can be able to like use some of the other benefits, the tax advantages off of the business, like because of that, right? So, but the deeper pieces that are happening here is that like what you might not be having right now that I would recommend that you start to get serious about if you're going to be a serious businessman in this world, is that it's not just your tax pieces you have to look at. If you're not running KPIs that are associated with your cash flow, your total net worth, your total taxable income, to know what are those KPIs need to kick out from essentially what is the wealth company that you're building, this collection of assets, which is a wealth company. And that's not tied into a timeline to a financial freedom or some timeline to a specific point. I like to look at like timelines to financial freedom or freedom of choice. This is what all of our clients will end up with after they go through like our elite program, that you really don't have the full picture, right? You're still just in a zone of kind of winging it without having a full team and systems and processes and reporting and KPIs and structure that helps you move through systematically. The net effect of that is going to be a ton of wasted time and energy as you're kind of trying to scramble it together, or coming to a call like this, which tells me that it's like, man, this is a serious business guy. He is making money. He's doing moves. He's a smart dude, but he's probably not doing is spending, is under investing in the professional team that can help do all of the other heavy lifting for him. So that way he can be doing better deals. Because all the time that you're spending thinking about tax and you're thinking about all these other things, you're not actually deal hunting and putting together more capital, right? So it might be a little bit of expansive thinking, but wanted to share that with you. Short answer to your question is very likely it's going to, I can't, that's too deep of a question for me to answer off the cuff. Right. But my intuition would be the more, if you can get to the 500 hours and tell IRS that you're doing that with a straight face and a way that actually can like make sense, right? Like you're still sleeping and have time to eat and use the bathroom and like those basic bodily functions. Then, likely that's a direction to look at. But the much better thing to do if you're in the position you're in and making the kind of money you're in is to get better teams, right? So either like putting together like a CPA, CFO team, or joining the programs that we have put together. So hopefully that was somewhat helpful to help you in the right direction. I know it's not the crystal clear answer you're looking for, but honestly, if I tried to give you some type of definitive answer like that off the cuff without knowing your full situation and what's going on, you probably wouldn't respect me as being able to be very good at my job anyway.
No, you did a great job. Thanks so much, Scott. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, brother. Cool. Anybody else?
Hey, Scott, how's it going?
Hey, what's going on? What's your name, brother? I just got you as M up on the board here.
Oh, sorry, it's Matt. I was driving and talking. I saw that you sent the email out, and I had an email out to support, and I haven't heard back. And it's okay. But I'm like, oh, he's on. Cool.
Cool.
So
tell me what's going on.
Yeah. So when we first talked, and I didn't, mentally comply, and so we've got all of our properties LLC'd, in the structure that they're supposed to be in. And I've got multiple bank accounts that are one legitimate, tied to our trust. And then a couple others where mortgages are pulled from, but no funds ever exchanged to myself outside of spending for the properties or paying mortgages. So in the event I have to prove that, I'm not piercing the veil, right? Like there's nothing crossing. But I guess the question is like, what's the best way? Is it just to consolidate everything to one account and then any funds coming in stay in that account? Because we're putting a lot of the money we have into either not into stock, but into higher, more interest accounts, not local banks. So I'm trying to make sure I'm making the right move in eliminating some of these lower earning accounts. And also so it's legitimate, if that makes sense. So it's protected at least under the trust,
Yeah, right on. So what I would do, so legal commingling issues are like number one, right? So we want to have money in the properly named types of structures, right? So like personal money should be like in personal accounts, and business money or separate money should be in separate accounts, whether it's the name of like your living trust or name of your asset holding company or whatever the case that's going to be. And then so go ahead and create the accounts, whatever they're going to be there. For most of the, like 99.9% of the time, I would say that you should only have money inside of your living trust, your personal name that you need for day-to-day living or month-to-month living, right? Okay. Everything else should be held inside of your asset holding company, because the idea is that like Matt gets into a car accident that exceeds the limits of liability of his car insurance policy. How much money can they take from Matt? Well, they can take the amount of money that are in accounts that are named in Matt's name, right? Or assets that are in Matt's name. So we want everything held inside of this asset holding company. So to the extent that we have like pooled money, like one account, one bank account that's holding money for potentially like multiple entities, that's not fatal for legal commingling, as long as we have proper accounting records that show that money belongs to different entities. Like it's the income and their expenses for different entities are being run through like a single account. So for example, like where would you find this? Is you would find this like in escrow companies or like in your property manager. Like your property manager has like all these funds from all these different clients, right? So, but it's not the property manager's money, but it's in the the bank accounts in the property manager's name, Well, they have accounting records that shows like which money belongs to which client. And so the same thing would apply like in your case, like separate entities, right? So the easiest thing to do is just have your bank account's the name of your asset holding company. That's my preferred way. If you need like for a facility of some other purpose, then do it whatever way it works for you. But if you can do that, that's the best. And it'll be keep your life like the simplest.
So I guess so with the asset holding, I don't think we've ever structured that because we've only got like the main trust and then the children off of all of that for the properties. So really, I shouldn't.
Then if you have children, are they child trusts? Like, are you using a DST or using a Series LLC structure?
Series.
Okay, Series LLC. Okay.
Yep.
So then the parent entity of the Series LLC is where you can create the bank account. So if that's like Worldwide Investments LLC, then that would be like Worldwide Investments LLC Series A would be your first child series of your tree structure, right?
Okay.
So you can just go form bank accounts underneath the name of Worldwide Investments LLC, and pull all of your cash in there, and then inside of your accounting records or your QuickBooks, just classify like this income and this expense that we did is related to Series A. Right. And so that's like a quick drop down of like what happens inside of your accounting. And then, A goes to property A, Series B is going to go to property B, like, et cetera. Right.
Okay, cool. So with money, I guess, building up in that account, like, let's just say, for example, I don't want 100,000 sitting in there because of like the liability and I want to move it somewhere else to be better protected against everything pooled there. Right. So lawsuit, property A, fatality, that's potentially open, right, to grab onto. I guess what's the way to
if you have it compartmentalized with everything that has liability associated with it, like an individual property, will all be compartmentalized into its own child series. That's how we get inside of its own bubble. So if something happens with property A, they can only get to property A. They can't get to any of the other series that are like horizontal to it, and they can't go up to get the parent.
Okay, true. Yes.
Right. And so if
the whole basis of why we did it, right?
That's the whole basis of why we did it, is to say like our worst case scenario happened. Our insurance failed us, right?
Yep.
And we're going to lose an asset. What's the minimum amount of assets we can lose? Right.
Okay.
And I just had a Chinese client the other day. And it's my Chinese clients, like they always hold like so much equity. They're like, oh, I have $1 million property and I owe $100,000 on it or something like that. Right. And so like, how do I protect the rest of this? And so we put in equity stripping. We created their own mortgage company, put new liens onto their own properties, and essentially like pulled out or clouded all of the equity that was there. So then they were like, that's great.
That is awesome.
Like, because now you can get sued and you literally will lose nothing. Right. So that makes sense when you have a ton of equity, because it costs like, $4 or $5 to like put all of that structure in place per property. So a lot of times they're like, it's pretty expensive insurance for my equity. But if you have enough equity, then all of a sudden like it starts to make a lot of sense. But for your case, likely just the compartmentalization is enough, unless you're running really high equity. And then we should look at some equity stripping.
Yeah. I love that idea, because we've got six that are paid off, a couple that are coming up to be paid off. And that's like the main goal is to not have a mortgage, right? So I'm paying the accelerated payments to like get it down. And that's always a nerving, piece like this. I'm wide open here. So
that's it, baby. Get the liability policy. Make sure you have like at least $1 million in coverage from an umbrella policy, like on top of that. And then once you get enough equity in there, then then we should equity strip those bad boys. And then that way you got your belt and suspenders, as we used to say in law school.
That's cool, man. All right. Yeah. I'll put a call in or just a request in to talk more about that. Cool.
Okay. Yeah. Right. I'm one of the asset protection attorneys, should be able to help walk you through all that in more detail, my brother.
Awesome. Appreciate it, man. Thank you so much.
Got you. All right. Anybody else? Or should I start dancing and singing?
Oh, Scott, I have one question, like regarding the foundation. Like, I know, like I'm new to it, so my question might be like kind of sound silly, but how do you use the financial money? I know my understanding is like you can put them into CDs, you can probably do like stocks or things like that. You can put them into syndication. Is there an option like you can use that money like to loan yourself if I have to do something, or like you cannot do that? You have to kind of separate.
So the loan you're not going to be able to do, but if you really get into like a tight spot, right? then you would just take the money out as like a wage, which then becomes taxable at that point. But so it's less than ideal, right? Because the idea is we want to have money that's inside of the foundation and leave it there and like never touch it until we're ready to push the eject button, right? Yeah, that's really like your best option. And the only other question that happens that I might have for you is like, do you have any money that's held up inside of like any IRAs or 401ks right now?
I do like my work supplied 401ks here.
Okay. Do you have any IRAs or 401ks that are from like former employers? A lot of times when people come into us, they're like, oh, I actually have like 4 or 5 IRAs because each employer set up a new one. Do you have some old ones?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So here's a hot tip for you. What you can do is you can take all your prior IRAs and then you can roll them into a single solo 401k, right? So that's like a self-employed solo 401k. So you can just create a new entity. Then now you're the sole employee of that entity. You can create a solo 401k because you're the sole employee of that entity. You can roll over all of those old IRAs into your own solo 401k and invest that money into stock market or like whatever else, or just hold it in cash. In your case, I might hold it in cash, right? But the solo 401k allows you to loan yourself the money out of it. So if you're looking for something to be able to create like a liquidity hedge, that's your better liquidity hedge than your private foundation. It's just to get all of that money. I think you can even pay for all of the legal fees and whatnot to set this up from your IRA, which is kind of wild, right?
Yeah.
So that's what I would do if I were in your shoes,
But
as
you
just like a
said-
secondary pull.
Yeah, but like if you kind of roll over all those like to SEP IRA, I mean your 401ks given by your job is technically protected from the lawsuits as compared with like let's say if you are gonna probably make a solo 401k, if my understanding is right.
Well, they're both. All retirement accounts are equally protected, right?
Okay.
So they're all what's called like ERISA protections. So your solo 401k that you would set up for your own that's underneath your own company, your 401k from your current employer, and all of your past ones that we'd be rolling over, they're all asset protected. They're all protected from lawsuits where people would sue you.
Okay. Thank you.
Well, why not? Guys out there, if you got 401ks, you got IRAs, you should really be doing the solo 401ks, man. Let you self-direct your money, be able to invest it with assets you want to, have liquidity to be able to loan yourself money.
Yeah,
You get
one
to
other
pay back
question.
money to your own retirement
You are
account.
rolling over the like to your SEP IRA. I mean, you are paying taxes on those, right now, or you want to probably keep them separate. Like like I have some like maybe like like as a Roth or some like probably like pre-Roth.
Okay. Yeah. So they're like traditional or Roth. That's typically how we'll talk about them. I would talk to the like one of the members of the attorney team, exactly, or Pete, and talk to them about like what exactly that looks like. But they'll typically, in this case, you would probably actually need like 2 different 401ks. You need like one that's going to be our solo 401ks, right? It's not a SEP IRA. It's a solo 401k. So one that would be traditional and one that would be Roth. So that way all of your Roth money can roll over into the Roth account and all the traditional can roll over to the traditional account. Because ultimately we actually, at this point in your analysis, we don't want to pay any tax. We don't want to do anything, right? We just want to get the cash and positioned in such a way that we can loan it to ourselves if we need it.
Sure.
Right? As if I'm understanding you right. Is that right?
Yes.
Perfect. Yeah. So that's what I would do. Right. And the team, probably the next best move is probably to schedule a meeting there with Pete or reach out to the team and then get them hooked up with Pete. And then likely looking at, it'll probably be like early 2025 until you're going to be able to get in to like that meeting.
Sure.
But if you need something sooner, just let us know. But it's end of the year kind of crunch time right now. So as everybody's can, and make sure if you're doing the private foundation and stuff that you have your donations in before December 31st. That goes for everybody. And for anybody that's on this call or anybody that's listening to the recording, your private foundation donations need to be in before the 31st. You got to have that check written at the very minimum.
So it has to be checked, right? You cannot use your credit card, right? I mean, the donations. Like if you have like
no, it can be whatever way you want to make the donation, right?
Okay.
So we just typically always say check is just like shorthand for like the general speaking of like cash, credit card, debit card, transferring gold bars, stocks, crypto, whatever we're going to be using to like shove into that tax structure so we can get those tax benefits. And then also, you might want to look out from an email from me here that I got coming out. Should be coming out today. Might even be coming out today or tomorrow. It's going to be talking about like what Royal Life is. So a lot of times, a lot of the people that have been coming through have been saying, "Hey, what do I do with this 5% donation that I have to make every year to another nonprofit?" So what I did is I said, "Well, great. I'm going to set up my own nonprofit." It's got two purposes. One is to help support nonprofits that are helping inner city kids that are dyslexic learn how to read. Turns out if you can learn how to read, you don't end up in jail, which I think is pretty cool. And then also what it's doing is my nonprofit is setting up like investment advisory trips and coaching for like life transformation coaching for like health and fitness or mindset business, whatever the case may be. So with all the coaches that I personally work with. And then that all comes from like through my nonprofit. So when people make their 5% donation to my charity, then I'm able to support those causes and then provide all these benefits to people that are looking to upgrade. So it might be something you want to keep an eye on, see if it's a good fit for you. If you already have things that you're looking to do, that's cool too. Just whatever's working for you. But just want to let you know that that's coming up.
Sure. Thank you.
My man.
Can I ask a question? Follow up?
Yeah, go ahead.
On the solo 401k, if you're rolling past employer in, you could have an entity set up with no active income, right? But if you actually want to contribute to the solo 401k, if you know the maximum contribution this year is close to 70 grand, is it if you collected 70 grand in income with that entity, all of it could just dump into the 401k?
Yeah, it's a good question. I would actually refer you over to Pete. I know there's some calculus of like what has to happen because some of the contribution has to be employer contribution and some has to be employee contribution, and that's by like a percentage share. So there's some games that you actually end up having to play with. How are you going to channel money around to be able to get it positioned correctly to do the contributions, right? So all of those are really well understood by the team, much more than they're understood by somebody who sits where I sit on these days, you know? So I would get in with a team on that for sure though, because it's massive. Like I've seen it over and over again that like any money that people spend with us on tax, like it's typically making them like a 300 to 500% return, like on what money they spend on it. Like it blew my mind when I was sitting around and doing all of the investor meetings that I would like take like years and years ago, and it never clicked for me, or it took for a while for it to click for me, that when they were like, tax savings is the number one investment you can make because it's guaranteed income every single year. We know exactly how much money we're going to make at the very outset of it. We should be pushing money into more tax knowledge, right? And I'm like sitting over here like trying to spread the message, man. I feel like I'm like over here like John the Baptist trying to spread the word about the Messiah. And I'm like, and then there's people that are just like, I think I'm just going to wait until next year. I'm like, that's going to cost you $50,000 in lost tax savings. And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, all right, cool. Live your best life. Like, we'll be here to help you whenever you feel ready. I don't know if you need a hug, but come on in here. It's going to be okay. You know? But yeah, dude, check out the Solar 401k and reach out to the team. And try to get into a meeting if you can about it.
Thanks so much for that. The part where you're rolling in the previous stuff, I guess the other question just to confirm is like, you don't actually need active income with that entity. It's literally like, it's just set up.
Not that I know of.
To collect a Soul 401k alongside it. And it's just there for that purpose, basically.
My understanding is that the only income requirements are on contributions, which are separate from rollovers. Right.
Cool.
But again, like, you know, I would defer that actually over to Pete about like what are going to be the technical, any of the technicalities are around that. Like the attorney team, the part of the attorney team and CPA team that focuses specifically on retirement vehicles know the ins and outs of that much better than I do.
Thank you.
You bet, your big brother. All right, who else we got here? Anybody got anything for me? Your lives are just amazing right now. Don't need any help with anything. You know, just feeling lonely. All right, that's cool. We'll sit around here at the virtual campfire and kick it for a bit. We got
If you
yeah, go ahead.
if no one else, the foundation, setting up your own personal like family nonprofit, like time frame for that. Typically, it's
Well,
like 6 months or something.
no, I mean we can actually get them. We've like developed some strategies. We really specialize in that particular strategy
Mhm.
because we combine that with a deal network that works inside of that takes like the 1,000 syndications that are out there and get it down into like the 3 to 5 that are quality, right? And we combine those together to accelerate to financial freedom, right? So the foundation is critical to that strategy. So we really specialize in the foundation that we use like for this investment purpose. And really we can actually get those up within to be able to qualify for tax purposes within just a couple of days. It might take IRS a while to get all the approval orders done and do all those application submissions and whatnot. But we actually have legally, we have 24 months to get all of that paperwork done. And then it backdates to the time of the formation of the entity. So proper formation of the entity and funding is actually the critical piece. That's a hot piece of knowledge you're actually not going to find anywhere online or any other attorneys really talking about,
Yeah.
right? So it's and typically we're talking about is like saving like a third of your income. If you have the cash for it or you have the assets, a third of your income can be untaxed
Mhm.
with the right foundation. So it's a monster to be able to set up. I
Yeah.
don't know. Is that something you're trying to do this year or no?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how I even got access to the email to talk to you right now. It's cool. I'm talking to the Scott. I've been looking at you a lot online and
Yeah.
stuff. I talked to Megan today about
Okay.
doing Royal Elite, so she sent me the agreement. I'm looking to sign up. Yeah, I'd love to chat more. But my whole thing is I literally just tripped into a huge capital gain event where we got significant capital gains this year that just paid, and days left to figure something out with that.
Yeah, I feel you, man. What can I ask you just like ballpark? What kind of figures are we talking about for like what top line income looks like it's going to be this year, including your capital gains and everything?
Yeah, the capital gains is actually 1.2 million.
Yeah.
This was on a company stock that was a $50,000 investment that 25x basically.
Wow.
And it's been illiquid, but I left the company at the same time. They basically, I don't know, it's complicated. Like one other person was allowed to liquidate at exit, maybe for whatever reason. They had hard, feelings for this person leaving, and it was like an original person. But because of that, I was in a small subset of shareholders that they had to inform all of us we'd have to realize gains. So they were allowing us to liquidate stock to pay the taxes. They're anticipating like $100,000 tax hit in 2025 when I filed 2024. But because I was exiting the company at the same time, they were like, you can actually just liquidate as much as you want. So I just went for it and pulled out 95%.
My man. So
Right?
what
I know,
do
it's
you
crazy.
what does that think you're going to be? Are you projecting being like a 25 or 30% tax rate?
Mm-hmm.
Something like that, right?
Yeah, and I'm in New York State, so
Oh, that's gonna be worse.
I know.
For sure.
But I'm thinking at the end of the day, even if with no tax, any strategy, it's like even if we turn 50K to 800, after taxes, it's still amazing. But obviously, if it can preserve as much as possible.
Yeah, man. No, it's yeah, the foundation is
So
a way to go
the
for people that are
foundation.
doing exactly what you're doing. Yeah.
Yeah, if there's days left to do that, like I'm looking to talk to Pete ASAP. I'm just literally gonna make the payment and get on his schedule and see what we can do.
Yeah, I think it's going to be pretty tricky. One of the things that I have been doing right now is basically because what a lot of the team is authorized to look at and do, right, is to be able to say, cool, they not able to promise anything around foundations right now, right?
Yep.
But if it's something that you wanted to do, you can give me a shout and let me know, or you can let me know right now. What I do is I was like, great. Apart from like that quote that you got from Megan, right? We would tack on like a 10K expedite fee. And then I'd say, great. And then I pass all that on to like the team and be like, I know you guys aren't going to be sleeping, but you're going to get paid because the client needs help. They're willing to pay you to like get all this done. And then so we take that and chop it up among the team to like whatever. And then that's the way I've been able to do it like this, like late in the year, but I have to kind of negotiate that in the background.
Gotcha.
But that's a way that I can like make it happen for you if it's something you're interested in. Otherwise, that's a lot of money to be leaving on the table. If we don't do it. So
yeah, I mean, I'm definitely interested. I don't know. Like I said, I don't even know how I got your email for this call. I'm trying to look at like, do I even
you're
have
probably
your
inside of our
info or anything?
contacts, right? And so it probably just blasted.
Well, I joined the vault.
Out to Fuller.
Maybe that's from it.
That would be it, dude. Anywhere, anytime you touch us, we use HubSpot Enterprise for like tracking like everything. We like to do a ton of investment for like all of our background systems for organizational reasons and getting everybody corralled in and get everybody educated. But
so yeah, I mean, if you want to put a little jot down a note about me, or
can you actually send me?
Should I just
can you send me an email real quick over to Scott@royaleaglesolutions.com?
Sure.
And then what I want you to do is to just send that over to me, and then right after like I wrap up this call here in the next like 15 minutes, I'm gonna get with the team and just see if I can hustle a deal together. And if I can hustle a deal together, then I'll send you like a separate quote that'll have like the expedite fee in it, and then just pay everything, and then I'll help wrangle everything in here towards the end of the year. And
no, that's awesome. That's exactly
make it happen for you.
What I'm trying to get done. And then like can I just ask, unless somebody else wants to take some time, just like aside from the foundation, maybe even inside the foundation, but like if there's still other funds to play with, like, is that where you'd be looking at some of the deal network that you have?
That's right.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So inside of the deal network, there's going to be like basically two categories of investments. There's if you can qualify for RIP status, which is the real estate professional status of 750 hours a year inside of real estate investing. So a lot of times you can't have like a full-time W-2 while trying to claim that because it's just there's not enough time really, right? To do that. So you either need like a stay-at-home spouse, or you need to be self-employed most of the time to be able to claim that, right? If you're not qualifying for rep status, then the second type of investment you're looking at is going to be machinery-based investments in oil and gas, car washes, like that kind of stuff. I'd stay away from ATM funds or anything like that. I don't even think I have any on the list, right? Even from clients, because I just don't like them. What am I going to do with 2,000 ATM machines? Like, how am I going to manage that? I can't do that. Right. So that's the pool that's going to be there. And there's a couple of recommendations that are inside of that deal network of like what to look at to like quickly, like to be able to quickly like vet out being able to place some funds. The oil and gas is going to give you 85% ish depreciation inside of the first year. And it typically is going to pay out like a 16% cash flow, 16 to 20% cash flow. So what I'm typically looking for inside of an oil and gas deal is something that's usually like blended. It's like I want to be able to use the capital to increase production on already producing wells, because that's much less speculative. I want to be buying machinery that's going to be leased to the underlying operating company, because I know I'm going to get paid out like on that. And then I'm okay with a little bit of exploration, but it's got to be less than 20% of the total play that those people are making, right? That tells me like, cool. And I'm willing to take lesser returns because I'm much more interested in predictable cash flow. Because if I'm in your shoes, I'm really just looking for, can I place some money to not have to pay tax and also like have my best shot at not losing this money and get some predictable cash flow out of this, right? If I can do that, home run, baby. I'm in all day, right? So then that's where I would look at inside of the deal network with the cash that's not inside of the foundation.
Cool.
Money that's inside of the foundation too can also be placed in syndications, but it's going to be limited. Like any tax benefits from those syndications are only going to apply to the foundation. They won't apply to you personally. So you got great returns, but it's still going to be better returns a lot of times than you're going to get like other places. But there are some things that you can do, like investing in small business funds, for example. And small business funds will allow you to be able to get like a 16 to 18%, sometimes higher, like yearly cash flow, but there'll be no tax benefits associated with them. So a lot of times what people are going to be doing is like they're trying to see like, cool, can I get qualified to get into the small business funds? Can I diversify that in with some like asset-backed businesses inside of like some apartment complexes, some storage units, a little bit of oil and gas, or maybe pretty heavy into oil and gas, right? If it's depending on what you need for the taxes. I'm making a play on that. But I would say like, let's get you like signed up, get you into like the deals as fast as possible. I think even Mark might have popped in here on this call. He might even be in here or whatnot, but that's what we're doing right now. Anybody that's late in the year is like, we're getting them like the deal sheets like right away. Because we would know that you would need to like be hustling to be like, cool, I need to place some funds to not pay tax on it.
Cool. No, that's super valuable. Cause like, again, I don't want to take everybody's time, but for someone like me, I'm just like Googling like crazy, you know, getting all these Facebook ads about syndications and car wash, and like it's like so daunting to think about how to vet these deals myself, and to have like you guys basically say like, you can't guarantee, but here's these 5 that are great, then that feels so much better.
Well, dude, your intuition is right, because I spent probably near like $250,000 in years of my life to like learn how to do that, with like how much I paid to like Tiger 21 and GoBundance and all these like investor clubs to sit with guys that were senior investors, senior entrepreneurs that had the same value set I did, which is like, I'm looking for predictable returns that also like where I'm not leaving money on the table, right? Because I don't like riding the roller coaster with my portfolio, right? But I definitely want to be doing more than like 5%. How are you guys doing that, right? So it took me years and huge amounts of investments to like learn how to do that correctly. And that's why I share that list, which is like, here's where I'm placing my money. That's why like this small group of people, you're going to see the list of the other clients of where everybody else is placing their money too. So if you're like wanting to like vet more, you can. But that's really like the value of that list. It's a great time to get on that list, because we're talking about in 2025 to actually like segment that list out as like a separate like add-on. As we add on some more features to it, and then build like more of like an investor club, you know, style piece, instead of like a one and done like shot that we got right now. So it's a good time to get in and get it vetted. But your intuition, I just wanted to confirm for you that your intuition is 100% right on why you should be totally leery about investing with stuff from off UCF of like a Facebook ad.
Yeah. Cool. Thank you so much.
My man. Cool. Anybody else we got?
Hey, Scott. Good afternoon. I'll ask a question. I put it in the chat earlier, but maybe it's not being monitored. So I guess I'm a recent client. I signed up a few weeks ago with you all. Kind of wanted to get more information on maybe your personal experience with the deal network. I'm curious, you know, what's the good, bad, and the ugly there, right? I think you guys have participated in that as well, either as a, you know, Royal Scott entity or individually, but just kind of curious what your personal experience has been, and you know, what kind of risk are we talking about there with these syndications?
Yeah, so so there's 2 different aspects of like what you'll have as part of like the current list, right? So there's I forget how they title it, but I think it's like Scott's deals, and then there's, which aren't my deals, right? But they're just the ones that I personally place money with.
Right.
And then the other list is like wherever all the clients are placing the money. So I wouldn't have looked at any of the things that the clients are doing necessarily, right? Because if I have looked at them and I place money with them, then they come back on to like my list, right?
Yep.
So So this is going to be the scope of like, what is the best investing knowledge that I have about how to underwrite a deal, meaning like how to underwrite that asset and how to underwrite that operator, like the jockey or who the entrepreneur is that's going to be running that asset to make the capital improvements for like that business, right?
Yep.
So underwriting a particular asset is not really that difficult to do, right? I think we've probably all done it with single family homes or something like that we've bought, right? What becomes much more difficult is actually being able to figure out as who's an operator that can do that business well, right? And that requires a different level of insight into how are you going to look at that, right? So I shot a video. I'm not sure if where that comes into like the educational funnel right now, but in that video, if Mark is here, I don't know if he can post it into the chat. And I just saw that the opened up like the chat box right now, Yegor. So thanks for calling my attention to that because I was not paying attention to the chat box.
No worries.
So the things that have become really important with it are a couple of things, right? So it took me years and a few $100,000 to be able to develop like those two skill sets as best as I could, right? And the key takeaways that I looked at was when looking at any new operator was going to be looking at a couple of key factors. Like one, I wanted to know like how long has that operator been like involved in that asset class? Then I want to know like, is the way that you're making money right now the way that you made money in the past? And are the market conditions the same, right? Are they the same type of market conditions that we have here? And if there's any deviation in there, then I want to know like, how are you hedging off any risks that are associated with the changes inside of the market conditions? I also know that operators haven't always had home runs. Anybody that tells me that says like I've only hit home runs like all the time, then I'm like, probably not, then there's something here you're not telling me about. I actually want you to air your dirty laundry to me and tell me like, when have you lost money? Why did you lose money? If you had lower returns, why did you have lower returns? What did you learn from that either changed like the way that your approach was in vetting the asset, vetting the market, or vetting the team that you had running, just like I would anybody else that I was consulting with like on the business front, right? Once I can get a feel for that, it's kind of like, Yegor, are you an entrepreneur? Have you made like a hires yourself of like having to make a call on like, hey, I'm going to bring this person like onto my team and bring a new employee in?
Yeah, so I'm in oil and gas as a as my kind of a W-2 type of income, and then I actually do side investments as well. And when it comes to oil and gas, it can be tricky, right? You can have a lot of really good returns, but the risk there, unlike say real estate, is your unknown unknowns, right? Somebody that's getting into proposing a deal, and you don't necessarily know what the risks are, right? Because there's a lot of uncertainty in oil and gas. Real estate, for the most part, I'd say you kind of can identify the risks pretty easily. Oil and gas is different from that, so I know you guys have had at least one in your list, at least one oil and gas syndication there, and I was curious, just historically for how you've done it. What's been success rate for you? Is it kind of like if you participate in 5 deals, is it 3 of them are average, one is crappy, one is really good? Is it that kind of distribution, or what do you typically see with yourself? That's
yeah. So what I'm so typically it really actually depended. A lot of it actually depended on. That's why I asked you the question about like doing hires, because my success rate with the deal that I got into also correlated with how good I actually got with hiring people into my own company. Because what I found is actually getting the feel for like the right person and the right role actually was much more correlated with what the success rate was of the underlying project. Okay, so that's an underlying factor that goes as a maturation question, right? In terms of like, where do I typically anticipate that I'm getting projected on my oil and gas deals and real estate deals somewhere between like oil and gas is usually 16% cash flow with like an 8% IRR bump. And then exits like within 3 to 5 years. And that my real estate is usually like an 8% pref with a 25-ish IRR with an exit in like 3 to 5, right? My total return off of my broad spectrum portfolio of syndications actually only nets out to be about 19%, right? So some of those are going to perform to spec, but most of them actually don't. And some of them actually turn out to be like not so great. So what I recommend for people is saying that like this is why diversification is actually so important. But it's not diversification for diversification's sake, right? It's actually the proper scope as it was taught to me. It was taught to me by these guys was that you say, well, what you do is that you actually really want to focus in obsessively about a small window of investments, right? Like if I'm going to do, if like Igor, you're like, I'm going to push money into my oil and gas investments, then it's like, cool. I kind of think I want to diversify about other asset classes, but I'm going to completely master everything there is to know about the underlying asset classes, those people and their operations, and how to do all of the sniff tests to find out what are all the things that people like aren't telling me. Right. And there's all kinds of little tricks that you'll develop right along the way about how would you do that. Right. Like one of the tricks that came up was the guys taught me, he said, everybody presents well during a meeting when they're trying to pitch you a deal.
Yep.
So what you want to do is get their personal cell phone number and then just call them randomly throughout the like during the day, one of the days, and then start asking them questions about what's going on. And then see what their mood, their ability to respond when they're like, you caught them at an unexpected time. And have questions for them where they have to pull information, you know, how much, and that tells you like, are they really as like stable of a human being as you thought? Are they making up shit on the fly? Right.
Yep.
You know, like what are they like doing? Right. So you develop like tricks into that. And then inside of that narrow spectrum, they're like, cool, now diversify maybe among like 3 to 5 like oil and gas deals. And then what they called this was saying like, it's called like the stay in your lane. Right. So most of the real estate guys I know, they're like, I only do real estate. Oil and gas guys I know, like I only do oil and gas, right? And I've diversified out like a little bit more, but that's because it's been my full-time job over 12 years to just grow like legal tax and investing. It is my job to do that, right? To be like, cool, here's how I sort and stack. And I also, you know, partner with the other people that are like there, like on the list. I don't get paid anything for it, but I view them as partners and I've worked with them for years and put money like with them and through them to be able to say like, these are the relationships that, you know, I feel strong about, unless somebody gives me really something new to say, hey, you know, this should call this relationship into question. And then we'd start the underwriting process all over again about what happened to somebody after their divorce or like whatever. I hope that answered your question. I'm not sure.
Yeah, no, that's helpful. That is really helpful. So it sounds like you had a kind of a mixed bag of experience, but most of it has been positive, and you know, overall, you've had a decent rate of return on your investments. So it's not. It's certainly
well,
news.
it's 19% off of cash, but remember, it's like 19% off of cash that I was like getting paid out each year. But then the monsters, whereas like the bonus depreciation, accelerated depreciation, is like all the tax benefits I was getting, because I was getting probably for every dollar that I was investing inside of an investment. Once you like start doing the calculator, so like, oh, I'm making I'm making like a 40% return on my money just by placing the investment in my first year. And then I'm making like these other benefits. I'm like, okay, cool. Well, I don't know where else I can do that besides like scaling an active business, which is damn near close to riding a roller coaster, you know?
Okay.
So,
yeah, no, I appreciate the response. Maybe a 10-second question. How has algorithmic trading been for you all so far? I know that's kind of new and maybe a bit more.
Yeah. Well, yeah, algorithmic trading has been one of those things that every time I feel like I got my hands wrapped around it, it does something super funky, and then I have to like rework my way out of it, right? So it's been okay for me, but the problem has been that it just hasn't been predictable enough to do what it is that I really like was seeking for it to do. Because what I really wanted to do was to like have and what I'm still working on, right? It's like, what's the correct algorithmic trading scenario that allows us to kick off consistent cash flow every single month and then pay that out to clients so that way they can reach financial freedom goals like even faster. But right now, if I had to do that, I'd have to be like, sorry, we're not going to have payments for the next like 3 to 4 months because we're in a drawdown and we have to work our way like out of the drawdown, and it'll be great eventually, but you're not gonna have the cash flow. Well, if you depended on that as part of your retirement like plan or your financial freedom plan, well, what did I just do to you? Right. So that's kind of why I've been holding back the reins like on that. So unfortunately, I don't think I'm going to do it even in 2025. I'm going to let it really season out. because I don't want to put anything out there that is going to have us go into whiplash, because whiplash really sucks. If you think you're free and you have to go back in, it's terrible.
Right. And so my past experience, from several years ago has been similar. It's very volatile. Some month it earns you a lot of money, some month it doesn't, and you go negative. So that's what I was kind of hoping to find out. But it sounds like your experience is similar, so I appreciate the candid feedback on this.
Yeah, that's right. I'm running 10 different bots with different strategies, and like even modifying like what kind of currency pairs I'm doing to say that certain currency pairs could stay, like, GBP USD, or even if just like the USD does something crazy, and how do we mitigate those kinds of risks? So it's just a ton of learning and that goes into it. But but I'd say like probably relatively like pretty similar to what you're experiencing.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Scott. I appreciate it.
My man.
One question, Scott, like regarding syndication. I mean, I started that last year. I realized that like there's limited and general like liability. So for people like who have like limited liability, like a W-2 employee, like I don't think like you can deduct all those depreciation that you mentioned. Like
For the oil and gas ones that you can. Yeah.
okay.
So,
Not for
so
the
oil and
state.
so there's two different types of syndication. There's like machinery based, which is like the oil and gas and car wash, and there's a separate one that's for the real estate.
Yeah.
When you're looking at can you deduct, what deductions can you make? You can deduct the machinery based depreciation because the way the syndications that we have on our list are structured is that you're a GP for the first year. And because you're a GP for the first year, we're going to be able to suck in that 85% depreciation. So that's the way that is structured. But yeah, for anything that you're looking at, that's what you have to make sure of. So you're right to be cautious of that, about like, hey, this shouldn't work. And you're right, it shouldn't work normally, except for the fact that the operator is going to make you GP for the first year, so you can get all the tax benefits.
Okay, got it. Yeah, that's what I thought. Thanks.
Sure thing, brother. All right, everyone. Anybody else? Anybody else want to come on? If you're too shy or too fly or too high, I totally get it. Holiday season's right here. Whatever way we do, we make it through the holidays. We make it through the holidays. Yes. Yes is asking about, can you get on the list? Oh, you mean like the syndication list? Yeah. What you want to do is just contact us, get into a consult, and then we're going to be able to get you into the right program to get you onto that list. I just put that. Reach out to the team via the website. They're going to help you with everything. Miraculous team. All right, guys. Well, if there's nothing else, I have my meetings coming up here with Ty Lopez here in about 15 minutes. So I'm going to wind it down and get going on that. But, oh, brother, I just saw you pop back on camera. What's going on, amigo? Nothing? All right. All right, guys. Well, shoot me an email if you have any questions, comments, concerns. I'm going to be popping live here for a little bit here until like the end of the year. Just making sure that everybody has everything wrapped up that they need to for the end of the year, and soothing the nerves so we can enjoy the holidays and everything. But appreciate you guys hopping on, being part of the community. Thank you for doing that. It helps us kind of spearhead and keep the energy flowing about keeping our mindset right around a lot of these issues. We all know that we need help with accountability on doing the things that we really should be doing, but we don't really want to do, And so that's what it really helps for us to all come together on doing it. So thank you guys very much. Hope you have a great day. Be in touch with me. Look out for my emails, and I'll see you guys again soon.